Billionaire collapsed in the cafe, then the black waitress's next move saved his life. What if I told you that sometimes the most powerful people in the world are just one heartbeat away from losing everything? At 7:23 on a rainy Tuesday morning, tech mogul James Richardson sat alone in Maple Street Café, his hands trembling as he stared at the divorce papers spread across the worn wooden table. The 42-year-old billionaire who'd built an empire from nothing was about to lose the only thing that truly mattered to him, his family. The café was nearly empty except for 35-year-old Denise Washington, who'd been serving coffee and kindness to this neighborhood for 8 years. She noticed something different about the well-dressed stranger in the corner booth. His expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes or the way he kept checking his phone with desperate hope. Little did either of them know that in the next few minutes, their lives would become forever intertwined in the most unexpected way. Where are you watching from today? James had chosen this small cafe deliberately, far from the glass towers of downtown where reporters might spot him. The Richardson Technologies scandal had been front-page news for weeks. Accusations of data breaches, congressional hearings, and now his wife Patricia threatening to take their 2 children and disappear forever. He'd tried calling her 17 times that morning. Each ring felt like another nail in his coffin. Denise approached his table with a steaming pot of coffee, her gentle smile radiating the kind of warmth that had made her a favorite among the café's regulars. "You look like you could use a refill, honey," she said softly, noticing the untouched breakfast growing cold beside the legal documents. "And maybe something to eat that's still warm?" "Thank you," James mumbled, not looking up. His voice carried the weight of a man who'd forgotten how to accept simple kindness. In his world, every gesture came with a price tag or hidden agenda. Denise had seen plenty of troubled souls pass through these doors over the years. Something about this man reminded her of her late father, proud, stubborn, carrying burdens too heavy for one person to bear alone. She returned with fresh pancakes, golden and perfect, steam rising like morning prayers. "These are on the house," she said, setting the plate down gently. "My grandmother always said good food could heal more than medicine ever could." James finally looked up, surprised by her kindness to a complete stranger. "You don't understand," he began, his voice cracking. "I've lost everything. My company, my reputation, my family. I don't deserve your kindness." Denise pulled out the chair across from him without invitation, something she'd never done with a customer before. "Now that's where you're wrong, sugar. Every person who walks through that door deserves kindness. That's what makes us human." For the first time in months, James felt tears threatening to fall. This woman knew nothing about his billions, his power, his mistakes, yet she saw something in him worth saving. "My wife filed for divorce yesterday," he whispered. "She's taking my children to her mother's in Seattle. She says I chose money over family." Denise nodded slowly, understanding flooding her dark eyes. "Did you?" The question hit him like a physical blow. He thought about the missed school plays, the forgotten anniversaries, the weekends spent in boardrooms instead of backyard barbecues. "I thought I was building something for them," he said, his voice barely audible. "I thought success meant security." "Sometimes we get so busy climbing mountains that we forget why we started climbing in the first place," Denise replied, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who'd learned life's hardest lessons early. James was about to respond when his phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. The children asked why Daddy doesn't love them anymore. I couldn't give them an answer. His chest tightened, breathing becoming labored. The stress, the sleepless nights, the crushing weight of losing everything, it all converged in that moment like a perfect storm gathering strength before it strikes with devastating force. James clutched his chest, his face draining of color as the cafe seemed to spin around him. The text message had triggered something deeper than emotional pain. His heart was racing erratically, each beat feeling like thunder in his chest. Patricia's words echoed in his mind. Daddy doesn't love them anymore. How had he become a stranger to his own children? "Sir, are you all right?" Denise was instantly at his side, her training as a single mother kicking in. She could recognize a crisis from a mile away. James tried to speak but only managed a strangled gasp, his expensive watch glinting as his hand pressed against his heart. I can't breathe, he wheezed, sweat beading on his forehead despite the morning chill. The divorce papers scattered to the floor as his body betrayed him, years of stress and neglect finally demanding payment. Denise had seen her father suffer 2 heart attacks before the final one took him when she was just 22. She knew the signs. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911, her voice calm and clear despite the emergency. Yes, I need an ambulance at Maple Street Café. I have a man in his 40s experiencing what appears to be chest pains and difficulty breathing. While waiting for help, she knelt beside James's chair, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. Look at me, honey. Breathe with me, slow and steady. You're going to be okay. Her voice carried the same soothing tone she used when her 8-year-old son Michael had nightmares. My kids, James managed between labored breaths. If something happens to me, they'll remember me as the father who abandoned them. Nothing's going to happen to you, Denise said firmly, though her own heart was racing. She'd lost too many people in her life to let another one slip away on her watch. What are their names? Emma and Lucas, he whispered, tears mixing with perspiration. Emma's 6, she loves butterflies. Lucas is 10, he plays soccer. I haven't seen his games in 3 months. Denise felt her own eyes welling up. This powerful man was just a broken father who'd lost his way. They need their daddy, she said softly. And from the pain in your voice, I can tell you love them more than life itself. The ambulance sirens grew louder, but in that moment, something profound was happening between 2 strangers. James found himself gripping Denise's hand like a lifeline, and she held on just as tightly, refusing to let him face this crisis alone. I don't even know your name, he said as the paramedics rushed in. Denise, she replied, stepping back to give the medical team room to work. Denise, but as the ambulance doors closed and rushed toward the hospital, neither James nor Denise realized that this was only the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. At Mercy General Hospital, James lay connected to monitors that beeped rhythmically in the sterile room. The cardiologist, Dr. Phillips, delivered news that felt like another blow. You've had a mild heart attack, Mr. Richardson. At 42, this is your body's way of telling you that something needs to change immediately. James stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in each square to avoid thinking about the bigger picture. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd built a technology empire but couldn't manage his own life. Patricia hadn't answered any of his calls from the hospital. His assistant had fielded 17 interview requests from reporters who'd somehow learned about his medical emergency. 2 hours later, an unexpected visitor appeared in his doorway. Denise stood there holding a small bouquet of wildflowers from the hospital gift shop and a paper bag that smelled like home-cooked comfort. How did you? James began, surprised to see her. I called every hospital in the city until I found you, she said simply, settling into the bedside chair. Figured you might be alone, and nobody should be alone in a place like this. James felt a lump forming in his throat. When was the last time someone had sought him out just to check on his well-being? You didn't have to do this. You barely know me. Denise unpacked homemade chicken soup and cornbread from the bag. I know enough, she said gently. I know you're a father who's scared he's lost his children's love. I know you're a man who's been carrying the world on his shoulders until they finally gave out. She pulled out a small photo from her wallet, a young boy with bright eyes and a soccer uniform. This is my son Michael. His father walked out when he was 2, said providing for a family was too much pressure. Her voice carried old pain but no bitterness. I work double shifts to pay for his soccer league, his school supplies, everything. But you know what the difference is between me and his father. James waited, sensing she was about to share something important. I show up, she continued. Not with money or grand gestures, but with my presence. Michael doesn't care that we live in a 2-bedroom apartment or that his shoes are second-hand. He cares that I'm in the stands cheering when he scores a goal. James closed his eyes, remembering Lucas's last soccer game 3 months ago. He'd promised to attend but had stayed in a board meeting instead, sending his assistant to record it on her phone. I thought providing for them meant working harder, earning more. Providing for them means being present for them, Denise said softly. Your children don't need a billionaire father. They need their daddy. The heart monitor's rhythm quickened as James realized the depth of his mistakes. But what if it's too late? What if Patricia won't forgive me? What if my kids have already given up on me? Denise reached over and squeezed his hand. Then you fight for them. Not with lawyers or money, but with love and time and showing up every single day until they believe you again. Have you ever had to fight to rebuild a relationship that mattered? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As visiting hours ended, James made a decision that would require more courage than any business deal he'd ever negotiated. The next morning, James discharged himself against medical advice, his determination stronger than the doctor's protests. Denise had left her phone number with a simple note: call if you need someone to remind you that you're worth fighting for. He clutched that piece of paper like a treasure map leading back to the man he used to be. His first stop wasn't his downtown office or luxury penthouse, it was a small flower shop where he bought 24 yellow roses, Emma's favorite color. Then he drove the 4 hours to Patricia's mother's house in Millbrook, his heart pounding harder than it had during the attack. Patricia answered the door, her face a mixture of shock and suspicion. James? What are you doing here? You look terrible. I had a heart attack yesterday, he said quietly, watching her expression shift from anger to concern. I almost died, Patricia. And the only thing I could think about was how Emma and Lucas would remember me, as the father who chose everything else over them. Before she could respond, 2 small voices erupted from inside the house. Daddy! Emma burst through the door, her butterfly hair clips catching the sunlight, followed by Lucas, taller than James remembered, more cautious but with hope flickering in his eyes. James knelt down as Emma launched herself into his arms, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, baby girl. Daddy's so sorry. Lucas hung back, old hurt warring with want. Mom said you were too busy to love us anymore. The words hit James like physical blows, but he didn't deflect or make excuses. Your mom was right, buddy. I got so lost trying to give you everything that I forgot to give you me. He looked up at Patricia, then back at his children. But I want to fix that, if you'll let me. How? Lucas asked, his 10-year-old wisdom cutting straight to the heart of the matter. James pulled out his phone, and for the first time in years, he turned it completely off in front of his family. I'm selling the company, Lucas. All of it. I want to coach your soccer team, teach Emma how to ride a bike, and be the daddy you both deserve. Patricia's eyes widened. James, you can't just. Yes, I can, he interrupted gently. I built that company to give our family security, but I lost our family in the process. What's the point of having everything if you have no one to share it with? Emma tugged on his sleeve. Will you come to my dance recital next week? I'm going to be a butterfly. I wouldn't miss it for the world, James whispered, meaning it with every fiber of his being. That evening, he called Denise from his hotel room. I wanted to thank you, he said. You saved more than my life yesterday. You reminded me what life is supposed to be about. Denise's warm laugh filled the phone. How did it go with your family? It's going to take time, James admitted. But I'm going to show up, every single day, until they believe in us again. If you've been in... The cafe looked exactly the same, down to the mismatched chairs and the coffee-stained menu board. But James was a different man entirely, one who knew the difference between success and significance. He pushed open the familiar door, the bell chiming his arrival just as it had that fateful morning. Denise looked up from behind the counter, her face breaking into the same warm smile that had saved his life. Well, well, look what the wind blew in, she said, wiping her hands on her apron. How's life treating you, stranger? Better than I deserve, James replied, meaning every word. He handed her an envelope with her name written in careful script. I wanted to thank you properly. Inside was a full scholarship check for Michael's college education, along with a letter explaining how one waitress's kindness had changed everything. Denise's hands trembled as she read, tears gathering in her eyes. "James, I can't accept this," she whispered. "You already have," he said gently. "Because you saw something worth saving in a broken man who'd forgotten how to be human. This isn't charity, Denise. This is one friend helping another's child reach for the stars." Through the cafe window, they could see Patricia pushing Emma on the swing at the park across the street, while Lucas practiced soccer drills nearby. James waved, and his daughter blew him kisses, her butterfly wings from the school play still tied to her backpack. "Emma won the talent show last month," James said proudly. "And Lucas scored the winning goal in the regional finals. I was there for both." Denise smiled, remembering their first conversation about being present. "That little girl was right, you know. Good food can heal more than medicine. But sometimes, good hearts heal even more." They talked for another hour about children and dreams and the simple joys of ordinary days. When James finally stood to leave, Denise walked him to the door. "You know what the beautiful thing is," she said, looking out at his family in the park. "You didn't just get your life back. You got your soul back too." James nodded, understanding that some gifts can't be measured in stock options or quarterly reports. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. As he crossed the street to join his family, James thought about the man who'd sat in that corner booth a year ago, broken, alone, and dying inside. That man was gone forever, replaced by someone who knew that the richest life wasn't measured in dollars but in moments like these. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey. If this story touched you, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more inspiring tales of hope and redemption. Sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with the simplest acts of human kindness.